At the exact moment Fu Shen gets wiped out by the system, his girl Liu Ruyan is busy playing doting nurse to her sick male lead. Only after the guy fully recovers does she finally remember Fu Shen is locked in the dark basement. She casually asks if he learned his lesson, but the butler just trembles and says Mr. Fu is already dead. Dead. But let's rewind a bit. Before this tragedy, Fu Shen begged her not to leave. He held her tight. You see, Liu Ruyan is the classic, obsessive, crazy second female lead in this novel. She grew up with the male lead as childhood sweethearts, loving him to death and assuming he loved her back. But nope, childhood sweethearts never beat the main female lead. The moment the actual heroine showed up, the male lead fell hard, leaving Liu Ruyan completely shattered. She took all that pain out on herself, turning completely unhinged. Now, 7 years ago, Fu Shen transmigrated into this world with one crazy job: save her and make her fall in love. To survive, he had to complete his mission. He poured his absolute soul into comforting her, staying by her side to pull her out of the dark. He helped her heal, and she even promised to try and love him back. But today was the final deadline, and just when she was ready to let go, the male lead ruined it all. The guy accidentally texted her instead of the heroine, saying he was sick. Instantly, she threw everything away to run to him, completely ignoring Fu Shen's desperate pleas. Low-key heartbreaking. She iced him out, told him to let go, her voice freezing cold as she reminded him of his place. She called him a worthless substitute compared to Song Cheng. When he tried to remind her of her promise to love him, she just brutally shoved him to the floor. She stepped right over him and walked away, telling him to remember his identity. Scrambling to his feet, Fu Shen cried out her name and desperately clung to her once more. He threw away his remaining dignity, begging her to stay because he would literally die if she left. But she just laughed with pure, cruel mockery. She asked if he was going to kill himself, sneering that his life could never threaten her. She refused to listen, telling him he was just a plaything. Pure boss energy. With one cold look, her servants grabbed Fu Shen, pinning him down so he could not even move. She coldly ordered them to tie him up and throw him in the basement to teach him a lesson. Just like that, the servants bound him tight. He could only watch helplessly as she hurried away. They dragged him down into the pitch-black basement, a dark place he knew all too well. This was where Liu Ruyan locked herself up whenever her obsession drove her crazy. To stop herself from chasing after the male lead, she would hide here. She would lock herself in and self-harm to fight her crazy impulses, and Fu Shen was always there, protecting her from her own self-destruction. But she would just take all that pent-up violence out on him instead. By the time she finally calmed down, he would be left half dead. He endured this torture for 7 whole years. They say it takes 7 years to replace every cell in your body, but she never forgot her first love. The cold system voice echoed. Liu Ruyan reached her beloved. Mission failed. It was time to die. Fu Shen just quietly accepted it, but the system told him there were still 2 hours left. If she returned within that time, he might survive. He just shook his head. He knew her too well. No matter how much he begged, she would never leave her precious Song Cheng. It was useless to try and touch her heart, and that was not just being dramatic, it was the cold truth. At midnight, his soul was pulled straight out of his body, ready to fade away. He expected to turn to ashes. After all, every transmigrator gets a second chance at life from the heavens, and there would not be a third. But his soul did not dissolve. It turns out the true punishment for failing the mission was being forced to wander this world as a ghost forever. He was bound to this world until Liu Ruyan died. The system explained this, said goodbye, and left him completely alone. Now, a solitary ghost, Fu Shen found his soul pulled toward the hospital, drifting right into a quiet VIP ward. There she was, Liu Ruyan, sitting by the bed, staring at the sleeping Song Cheng with pure devotion. She did not sleep a wink all night. She was terrified that if she closed her eyes, he would vanish. Then, Song Cheng woke up. He was shocked to see her. He asked why she was there. She mentioned his text, but he just shrugged. It was meant for his actual girlfriend. Talk about a brutal reality check. Instead of snapping, she just forced a weak smile and offered to call her for him. As she turned to leave, Song Cheng called out her name. She froze, instantly tense. He gently told her that Fu Shen was a good guy and that she should go live a happy life with him. She nodded quietly, but her eyes were filled with pure heartbreak, because to her, no matter how great Fu Shen was, he could never compare to Song Cheng. She just did not want to guilt trip him. Once she got back to her quiet villa, she sat on the couch in absolute silence for hours. It was noon before the butler dared to interrupt her thoughts, asking if she wanted lunch. That is when she casually asked about Fu Shen. She asked if Fu Shen had admitted his mistake yet. The butler nervously replied that he was still down there, completely quiet, not making a single sound. Surprised by his silence, she raised an eyebrow. The butler asked if he should check on him, but she coldly declined. She wanted to see just how long his stubborn pride would last. Up in the air, Fu Shen's ghost laughed bitterly at the sheer irony of it all. He had to admit he never had any real dignity to begin with. From day one, he understood that failing to make her love him meant his death. Having died once before, he desperately wanted to survive. So to make her open up to him, he came up with a desperate plan. He literally had his face altered to slightly resemble her beloved male lead, staged a car accident with her, and made up a tragic backstory. He lied about being a tragic orphan just to stay close to her. In reality, he was never even supposed to exist in this novel. He was a ghost in the machine, fighting for a spot in a story that did not want him. But was it really just about survival? Honestly, our main character, Fu, just wanted to survive and finally find a real home. He just wanted someone who actually loved him. In his past life, he was incredibly lonely, and he gave his entire heart to Liu Ruyan, even though she totally despised him. No matter how much she loved the male lead Song Cheng or how badly she hurt him, Fu always forgave her. Honestly, by the end, he couldn't even tell where his feelings stood. Was it real love, or was he just playing the system game? Honestly, he forgot he was on a mission until the system alarm started ringing. But when she left him to be with Song Cheng, his heart broke into pieces. He watched Liu Ruyan sit at the dining table completely unbothered. She ate her lunch with perfect elegance, totally indifferent. She knew she didn't need to comfort him. He always crawled back anyway. Talk about toxic. He would crawl back to please her as if nothing happened, just like always. But then he remembered 6 months ago, when he and Song Cheng fell off a yacht. Standard novel logic here. Some villain tried to take out the male lead by pushing him overboard. Fu actually reached out to save him. But they both ended up falling into the freezing ocean. And guess what? The plot armor didn't help Song Cheng because he literally couldn't swim. Fu couldn't swim either. The moment Liu Ruyan and the female lead saw them, they dove right in without a second thought. But they both swam straight to Song Cheng, leaving Fu drowning. He watched them get further and further away, completely abandoned. This scene is low-key heartbreaking. He genuinely thought he was going to die. A lifeguard saved him, but he fell into a deep coma for days. When he woke up, he saw a rare flicker of guilt in Liu Ruyan's eyes. She actually treated him a lot better after that. If Song Cheng hadn't sent that accidental text, maybe they would have made it work. But now, Fu is left with nothing but regret. He wonders how she'll react when she finds his cold corpse. Honestly, she'll probably just look completely indifferent. Back in the present, the villa is dead silent. In her study, Liu Ruyan is burying herself in work like she always does. Ever since she lost Song Cheng, she used work to numb the pain. It actually built her a massive, unstoppable business empire. Even Song Cheng couldn't match her success now. Suddenly, her hands pause on the keyboard. She walks over to the window and stares into the dark night. She lights up a cigarette, a toxic habit she picked up just to drown out her thoughts of Song Cheng. Fu knew her so well after 7 years of absolute devotion. He could read her mind from the slightest change in her posture or the tiniest facial expression. She is visibly irritated right now. Is it because she just saw Song Cheng and her feelings are all over the place again? Or is it something else entirely? She lights a second cigarette just as the butler knocks and walks in with some warm milk and a plate of cookies. He offers her a snack, and Liu Ruyan immediately asks with a sneer if Fu told him to bring this. The butler says no. Fu is totally silent in the basement. He just remembered Fu used to bring her snacks every single night, so he decided to bring them himself. Liu Ruyan gets even more annoyed. The butler adds that these cookies were actually handmade by Fu the day before yesterday.
He stayed up all night baking them after failing so many times, but Liu Ruyan doesn't even look and coldly tells him to take them away.
She snaps at the butler for not listening. He quickly picks up the tray, but he can't help speaking up for Fu. He warns her that Fu hasn't eaten or drank anything in the basement for 2 days. She coldly snaps that it's his own business, and if he starves to death, he deserves it. She wants to see how long he can hold out, then strictly forbids anyone from going down to the basement without her permission. The butler has no choice but to agree. Fearing her wrath, the butler doesn't dare say another word and respectfully leaves. Liu Ruyan aggressively snuffs out her cigarette and turns back to her computer. She goes back to work like nothing happened. She truly doesn't care if Fu lives or dies, so why did he ever expect anything different? He really should have given up sooner.
As the night grows late, Liu Ruyan shows no signs of sleeping. She is just too restless and keeps tossing and turning in her own thoughts.
She aggressively pulls at her hair, but she can't even get her hair tie off. Back when Fu was around, he handled every little detail of her life. He would plan her outfits for the next day, help her get ready, and even style her hair. For 7 years, he took care of her every single need. Seriously, she can barely function on her own without him. Right now, she's pulling her hair so hard her scalp hurts. She is so annoyed, she kicks her chair with a loud crash. Suddenly, her phone rings. Without even checking the caller ID, she angrily snaps into the receiver. But the voice on the other end is Song Cheng. Instantly, all of Liu Ruyan's anger vanishes into thin air. Her eyes soften with pure tenderness. Seriously, she has zero attitude when it comes to the male lead. She saved all her worst moods for Fu. Even when Song Cheng heartlessly dumped her back in the day, she just quietly took it and never complained. If Song Cheng needs her, she'll run to him, even if it rains daggers. She softly asks what's wrong. Song Cheng asks if she's okay, and she immediately plays it cool, gently changing the subject to why he's calling so late. Before he can even answer, she anxiously asks about his health and if his fever returned. Song Cheng says he's finally discharged. The doctor said he's fine, just a little weak from the flu. Liu Ruyan tells him to take care of himself, and Song Cheng warmly thanks her for checking in. He mentions she left in such a hurry today. Liu Ruyan tightly grips her phone. Fu knows exactly what she's feeling right now. Song Cheng only left because he feared the longer they stayed together, the harder parting would be. He didn't want to cause her trouble, preferring to suffer alone, or vent it on Fu Shen. Then Song Cheng speaks up. "Tomorrow is my 26th birthday. Please come," he says. Liu Ruyan tightens her grip on the phone. He wasn't going to throw a party, but Luolo insisted. Surely she's free. "Are you free?" Song Cheng asks. "Yes," she replies. "Great, bring Fu Shen along too." Since Fu Shen almost drowned saving him, he wants to finally thank him in person. She agrees after hesitating. She can never say no to him, even if she despises Fu Shen. She stares at the phone long after hanging up. Honestly, Fu Shen should have given up on her way sooner. Just seeing his name fills her with deep affection. It's low-key heartbreaking. 7 years, and Fu Shen was just a placeholder. His ghost watches her stare at the black screen, absolutely silent. Then she finally storms out of the study. She calls for the butler, who runs out immediately. He looks up, asking if he should check on Fu Shen. "If he apologizes and stops his tantrums, let him out," she says. The butler nods, while Fu Shen's spirit floats above them, laughing bitterly. There are no more promises, Liu Ruyan. He can't just act like nothing happened after all this abuse. All that's left of him is a cold corpse. Thanks to Song Cheng's call, her temper has completely cooled down. She goes back to work, scrolling calmly. Soon, the butler knocks. Fu Shen can see the absolute panic and terror in the old man's eyes. The butler stammers, lost for words. "Is Fu Shen behaving himself now?" she asks, with total indifference. She sneers, assuming he's playing games. She warns the butler that if Fu Shen keeps throwing this tantrum, she won't care even if he starves to death. She says it with so much malice, making the butler tremble. "But miss," the butler stammers, "Mr. Fu is actually dead." For a split second, she looks panicked. But disgust quickly takes over. She scoffs, asking what kind of trick Fu Shen is playing by faking his death. She thinks he wants her to back down, but the butler insists his body is already cold and stiff. She refuses to believe it, snapping that it is impossible. But the butler begs her to look. She storms out of the study and down to the dim basement. Standing at the entrance, she can barely see. Fu Shen's body is slumped on the ground, tied in ropes. This is his first time seeing his own corpse. From the doorway, it literally just looks like he's sleeping. "Stop acting," she demands in that freezing voice. "Get up now and I'll forgive you," she says. His ghost literally laughs. She still thinks this is a game? She expects him to wag his tail like a dog. 1, 2... Her voice grows heavier with rage. She's absolutely furious because he isn't moving at all. "Don't push your luck," she snarls. 3. But a corpse obviously can't react. Her eyes turn red with rage because this is his first time defying her. The butler whispers again. "Tell him if he doesn't come out tonight, he can rot here forever," she snaps, turning away immediately. She won't even check if he's breathing. Heartless. His soul is forced to float behind her. Back in her bedroom, she effortlessly rips off her hair tie and throws it down. She heads into the shower. After a quick wash, she habitually calls out for a towel. Realizing no one is coming, she grabs it herself, drying off roughly before putting on her pajamas. She turns off the lights and falls asleep. It is actually crazy how little his death impacts her. The next morning, her alarm blares, but there's no Fu Shen there to gently turn it off. As it keeps ringing, she angrily screams Fu Shen's name, asking if he's dead. Well, he actually is. He's gone. She finally sits up in irritation, grabbing her phone to aggressively silence the alarm. She turns to glare at his side of the bed, but she is greeted by absolute emptiness. The words die in her throat. She simply gets out of bed. After a quick wash, she heads to her walk-in closet, spending ages trying on different outfits. She wants to look perfect for Song Cheng's birthday. She's not a classic beauty, but her gorgeous figure turns heads. She slips into a stunning black gown that hugs her curves, looking absolutely mesmerizing in the mirror. She stares at her reflection, adjusting her shoulder straps back and forth, completely obsessed with looking flawless. Annoyed, Liu Ruyan yanks her clothes and storms out of the dressing room. Downstairs, the butler asks about Fu Shen. She snaps to leave him alone and let him rot. Ignoring the butler completely, she sits down to eat as he sighs. After a quiet breakfast, she leaves. Fu Shen's ghost follows her directly to the office. She stays busy. Then, a call from Song Cheng snaps her back to reality. It hits her that it is Song Cheng's birthday, a day she never used to forget. Fu Shen's ghost watches her feel guilty as she promises to be right there. She drives like an absolute maniac, leaving even Fu Shen's spirit terrified of a crash. The venue is packed, and Song Cheng immediately pulls his girl over to greet Ruyan.
She hands him a present from her car, a gift Fu Shen prepared before he died.
Song Cheng happily unwraps it to find some sandalwood beads, absolutely thrilled with the amazing gesture. Fu Shen actually bought these at an auction and got them blessed, just because Ruyan mentioned it. Since Song Cheng is marrying, Fu Shen wanted him to have this blessing. Song Cheng is blown away and asks where she got them, loving the thoughtful gift. He heard they were sold and never expected Ruyan to buy them. He thanks her for getting them blessed, while Fu Shen's ghost notices a strange look in Ruyan's eyes. She quietly mutters that Fu Shen prepared it, prompting Song Cheng to ask where Fu Shen is. Asked where Fu Shen is, Liu Ruyan instantly freezes. Silence. Song Cheng asks if they fought, pointing out that Fu Shen never gets mad. She stays silent. Song Cheng warns she will regret losing him. He warns she will regret losing him forever. Honestly, Song Cheng is a really good guy. He always tried to bring them closer, amazed that any man could love so humbly. Fu Shen even memorized his rival's favorite things, and Song Cheng gets visibly upset on his behalf. Song Cheng asks how much Fu Shen must love her to tolerate her loving another man. Honestly, that hits deep. He even helped her buy gifts for his rival. Honestly, how did Fu Shen tolerate this? At first, he just wanted to make her happy, but catering to her became a blind habit. He blindly did everything just to make her smile. Song Cheng begs Ruyan to stop being stubborn. He warns her not to regret it after he is gone, putting the beads back. He returns the gift, admitting he loves the beads, but says they rightfully belong to Fu Shen, not him. They belong to Fu Shen. Ruyan stares in silence while he grabs a box. He wanted to thank Fu Shen personally and even bought him a gift, opening a small box. It is a tie clip Fu Shen liked when they went suit shopping, though he never bought it. Ruyan stares at the gold tie clip. Honestly, Fu Shen never even cared about it. He only wanted it because it matched her hairpin. Ever since he became a system host, she was everything. He completely lost his identity for her. When asked if Fu Shen wanted gifts, Ruyan stiffens. He asks if she has ever given Fu Shen a single gift, given her incredibly lavish lifestyle. He points out Fu Shen never wears designer clothes, which breaks the ghost's heart because Fu Shen is her boyfriend.
He gave up everything for her, yet she treats him like garbage? This girl is absolutely toxic.
Ruyan quietly mutters that Fu Shen never asked for anything. And she is right. Our boy never demanded a thing. She was not stingy. She just never thought to care. He loved her so humbly and cautiously.
Song Cheng sighs that Fu Shen has feelings too, and taking him for granted must have broken him inside.
Fu Shen's ghost sees her hands tremble. Is she hurting because Song Cheng is disappointed in her? Song Cheng tells her to go home immediately and apologize, hoping they can return to the party together tonight. But she stands there frozen, reluctant to leave the one man she has chased for years. He watches her hesitate. Classic Runyon, always choosing her own desires. Song Cheng gets pretty annoyed with her. To keep him happy, Liu Ruyan instantly folds. She literally never rejects his requests. Even if she hates it. Fu Shen's spirit follows her out of the party. She gets into her car and just sits there, completely frozen. She does not drive off. Is leaving really that painful for her? Fu Shen figures she will just make an excuse and run right back to Song Cheng. But instead, she starts the engine and slowly heads home. It is a massive contrast to how fast she rushed over here. Her slow driving perfectly matches her mood. She went from pure, excited passion to feeling completely empty and disheartened. When she finally gets back to the villa, she sees workers carrying an ice coffin inside. Talk about an eerie welcome.
What is this? She snaps. The butler rushes out, explaining it is Fu Shen's body. Liu Ruyan just scoffs, asking if he is still playing dead. Is he still addicted to acting? She fumes. The butler is speechless. He definitely did not expect her to return from Song Cheng so early. She asks where Fu Shen is. Hearing he is in the basement, she heads straight down. This time, she does not just stand at the door. She walks right up to his cold body. The ropes are gone, probably untied by the butler. I mean, he is dead. No point binding a corpse. Fu Shen's ghost watches her look down at his pale, stiff face. She leans over and calls his name. Her voice is still so cold. I will say this one last time, she tells the corpse. Get up right now, and I will let this go. Fu Shen almost laughs. Does she seriously think he can just revive? Like what? She expects him to crawl back from the dead? Fine, stay like that, she yells, her voice echoing in the basement. The butler finally speaks up, telling her that Fu Shen is truly dead. He is not dead, she says stubbornly. How could a perfectly healthy person just die out of nowhere? The butler stays quiet. Fu Shen was tied up, making suicide impossible, and there are literally no external wounds on him. She stares at him, asking if he still wants to marry her, and honestly, he really did. He remembers one intimate night when she buried her face in his neck. At that moment, he knew she was actually happy. So he built up the courage to whisper, "Let us get married." But that single line instantly ruined the mood, and she pulled away. She glared at him coldly and told him not to push his luck. He quietly reminded her that she promised to try and love him. He remembers when she came home drunk. He took care of her, and in her dazed state, she looked at him with real affection. She whispered that she would try to love him. He held on to those words like a lifeline, believing his painful waiting was finally over. But she quickly shattered that dream, coldly stating she did not love him at all. The heartbreak was physical. He could barely breathe. She ignored him for months after that, and he never dared bring it up again. But now, she stands over his corpse and speaks. She tells him he won and that she is ready to marry him. I swear, the absolute audacity of this woman is next level. Fu Shen feels absolutely nothing. It sounds like a sick joke. Her voice suddenly softens as she tells him to stop pretending and get up. Coaxing him like a child, she suggests buying rings and picking out a wedding dress. She even mentions the beads.
Having retrieved them from Song Cheng, she wants him to wear them at the wedding. She says they are precious. There's even a tie clip he supposedly likes. She lists all the luxury watches and suits they can buy now. Talking to his cold body like he is just throwing a tantrum is crazy. It is wild seeing her act so humble.
Fu Shen wonders if he should feel relieved. At least she is not completely indifferent. Or is she just doing this for Song Cheng? The butler cannot watch this tragic delusion anymore. He steps in, begging her to face reality. Fu Shen is gone.
He is dead and cannot marry you, he says. Shut up, she screams, her eyes turning completely bloodshot with rage.
She loses her mind screaming at him. She insists Fu Shen cannot die because they are not married yet. How could he leave her?
The butler stays quiet and simply hands her a notebook. She looks at it, whispering, "What is this?"
It is Fu Shen's diary, the butler replies. He found it while packing up his things. From the sidelines, Fu Shen's ghost watches. His spirit trembles. Being transmigrated into this world was incredibly lonely. Writing was the only way he survived the crushing pain. It was his only outlet to stay sane and keep smiling for her. But right now, he really does not want her reading it. With trembling fingers, she opens the first page. The entry is from April 4th, 2016. He wrote that he transmigrated into a book. A system chose him from the dead to complete a mission. If he succeeds, he gets to live. If he fails, he dies forever. The next entry is from April 10th, 2016. He met his target, Liu Ruyan, and realized she looked incredibly unhappy. She had everything but was completely alone. He felt for her because his past life was just as lonely and tragic. When he was born, his father was crushed by a truck while rushing to the hospital. His family blamed him for the tragedy. His mother and grandparents hated him, so his grandmother raised him. She was the only person who ever showed him real love. But in 8th grade, she was hit by a car while bringing him lunch. Even as she died, she was still clutching his food. After his grandmother passed, his family treated him like a complete jinx, blaming him for all their bad luck. Since he was still a minor, the law forced his estranged mother to take him back into a home where she had already remarried. Her new husband already had a son, and together they had a baby daughter who got all the family's love and attention. What they did not know was how brutally his stepbrother bullied him. When he finally broke down and told his mother, she just slapped him. She screamed at him, "You are a man. Do you honestly think you are attractive enough for another guy to harass you?" She told him to stop making trouble, so he endured the constant abuse in silence, waiting for the day he could escape to college. But right after graduation, his sister tracked him down like a demon, constantly harassing him and demanding he give her cash. After 2 years of pure hell, he called the cops and got her locked up, but his mother's reaction was absolutely vile. She beat him, calling him a shameless, ungrateful piece of trash, and demanded that he drop all the charges immediately. Driven to absolute despair, he jumped off the roof of the building right in front of his mother's eyes. Talk about a tragic backstory. He swore he would never look back at those nightmares again, wanting to start fresh. Now he has a system and a chance to build a new life with a wealthy woman named Liu Ruyan. Back in April 2016, he used his system funds to undergo plastic surgery, altering his face to match Liu Ruyan's taste. The healing process was excruciating, but by July, his new face was ready, and he felt like a brand new person. Looking 70% like her ex, Song Cheng, he staged a dramatic car accident right in front of Liu Ruyan's company. Getting hit by her car hurt like hell, but seeing her shocked expression made it all worth it. He got discharged and successfully moved into her massive villa, but living with her made him realize just how dangerously obsessed she was with Song Cheng. She was heavily medicated and even self-harming. Seeing her suffering, he felt a deep, tragic connection to her pain. He genuinely believed he could help her heal. Fast forward to April 2017, a whole year had passed. Yet her heart remained totally locked on Song Cheng. On her birthday that October, our MC baked her a cake and waited up all night. She never came home because she spent the entire night sitting outside Song Cheng's door, too afraid to even knock. 2 years in, and she still treated him like a ghost. Honestly, this slow burn romance is starting to hurt. By July 2018, her crazy work habits caused severe stomach issues, so he began cooking and delivering her favorite meals daily. Watching her eat every last bite brought him a quiet, comforting sense of happiness.
It felt like they were a real family. At this point, his feelings were genuine. It was no longer just a system mission. 3 years went by. The system kept warning him to focus on the quest, but he was completely in love. By 2020, he was totally gone for her, but watching her look at Song Cheng still absolutely tore him apart. Her loving gaze was always reserved for someone else, yet falling for her was the easiest thing he had ever done. She was his ultimate redemption, the only ray of light in his otherwise miserable, dark existence. He wanted to heal her too, to build a warm, happy home together with lots of kids, because he loved a lively house. But on Christmas Day, during a freezing snowstorm, she dumped him on the side of the street without a second thought. Song Cheng had had a fight with his girlfriend, so she rushed to comfort him, leaving our MC stranded without his phone. He had to walk miles home in the freezing cold, and when he arrived, her cold indifference was honestly heartbreaking. Yet, he did not blame her. He knew she only got hurt whenever she chased after Song Cheng anyway. Year 5 of the quest. Any normal person would have given up by now, but he simply could not let go. By April 2022, he had stopped writing in his diary. 6 years of unrequited love had drained him completely. He had poured his entire soul into this system quest and still had absolutely nothing to show for it. But then a breakthrough happened. A drunken Liu Ruyan promised she would try to love him. Months later, he fell into the ocean while trying to save the male lead, but both girls ignored him to rescue Song Cheng. He nearly drowned, but waking up to find she had stayed by his bedside for days made him stupidly happy anyway. Although she turned down his marriage proposal, he could feel a genuine, warm shift in her attitude toward him. She was starting to forget about Song Cheng, slowly getting used to having our MC by her side instead. The system gave him a 15-day countdown. If she stayed away from her ex during this time, he would finally clear the quest. He would get to live a normal, healthy life. He was genuinely excited for their future together. But that is exactly where the diary ends, leaving a crying Liu Ruyan holding the book as the truth hits her. Seeing her tears fall, you would think Fu Shen would feel some guilt, but honestly, he feels absolutely nothing now. He just looks at her like a total stranger. Turns out, dying really lets you instantly drop all your past baggage. All he wants now is to get away from Liu Ruyan, even if he becomes a wandering ghost who can never reincarnate. The butler finally musters up the courage to speak up, since he's never seen her cry in all his years of service. But she coldly orders him to get out, screaming in absolute rage to leave Fu Shen's body alone and beat it. The butler shuts the door on his way out, and Fu Shen watches Liu Ruyan finally sink to the cold floor. She finally bows her head, her trembling fingers reaching for his face, though touching a cold, stiff corpse must feel pretty eerie. Instead of being scared, she traces his features and bursts into tears, her heavy sobs echoing through the quiet basement. Honestly, watching her weep just feels hilarious to him. This late affection is literally cheaper than dirt. He just watches indifferently as she clings to his body, crying her heart out till she's almost about to pass out. Turns out women can break down just as hard. But seriously, she ignored him when he was alive, so who is this act for? Now that he's dead, she's putting on this massive show, crying out Fu Shen's name over and over like a tragic lover. She begs him to wake up, desperately promising they can get married right now if he just opens his eyes. She promises him any wedding he wants, swearing she'll never care about Song Cheng again and only love him. Hearing her beg him not to leave her alone, Fu Shen honestly thinks he's hallucinating. He expected guilt, but not this level of drama. Sure, even a pet dying would make someone sad, but he never expected her to completely flip and act so deeply in love. She's acting like a totally different person, suddenly overflowing with the kind of love she used to save only for Song Cheng. Her desperate cries keep echoing through the basement, making her look like she just lost the absolute love of her life. Meanwhile, Fu Shen's ghost just floats there, totally bored, watching her ignore the male lead's calls just to weep over him all night. The next morning, the butler checks in, worried she might actually join him. He gently warns her that they need to move the body. If they don't put him in an ice coffin, he'll start decaying, and honestly, Fu Shen can already see it happening. His corpse is indeed starting to rot, but Liu Ruyan just sits there on her knees, barely even flinching at the warning. She suddenly calms down and agrees to put him in the coffin, saying one night of grieving is enough. But she's clearly unstable.
She pushes the butler's helping hand away and walks out without a backward glance. Talk about a sudden, freezing shift in energy.
When the butler asks if they should plan a funeral or just cremate him, she flatly says no to both options. The butler is totally lost, and honestly, so is Fu Shen. She just snaps to leave him in the freezer and not touch him.
She just storms off, leaving Fu Shen wondering if she's really gonna deny him a final resting place. He follows her to her study. She calls her assistant and demands they plan a wedding at the villa immediately. Bro, the assistant is understandably completely baffled by this.
She hangs up and starts spamming phone calls, ordering everyone she knows to show up for her wedding tomorrow.
Fu Shen is convinced she has completely lost her mind. Who is she even marrying? But then she dials the male lead. She tells Song Cheng she's getting married tomorrow. He's thrilled, assuming Fu Shen finally forgave her and that he's the groom.
Song Cheng says Fu Shen is the best guy for her, and she slowly agrees. Fu Shen expects her to drop some toxic reply.
Usually she'd say no one compares to Song Cheng, but she just hangs up. Is she seriously trying to marry a dead man?
She runs out to buy a suit, a wedding dress, and rings, then returns to have the staff dress Fu Shen's frozen corpse in the suit.
Fu Shen literally rubs his ghost eyes in pure disbelief. There is no way this is actually happening right now. Liu Ruyan is literally throwing a wedding for a dead man. She's actually going to marry his corpse, which is next level insane. He can't even imagine the horror on the guests' faces tomorrow. The author absolutely cooked with this psychotic plot twist.
The next day, the villa is packed with guests. Song Cheng shows up, completely happy for them as he looks around.
He walks up to her in her white gown, asking why she's greeting guests alone and where the groom is. She just bites her lip. She points to a corner surrounded by heavy flowers. If you don't look closely, you won't even notice the ice coffin hidden there.
When she nods, Song Cheng walks over with the other guests following behind. The moment they arrive, the entire room goes dead silent. Everyone is completely horrified to see Fu Shen lying dead inside. Song Cheng is in absolute shock, asking what on earth is going on.
She just quietly nods, unable to bring herself to say the words out loud. He literally cannot process the truth. People start whispering in panic, and one guest speaks up, asking the obvious question. If he's dead, why are you marrying him?
Liu Ruyan shuts them up with a death glare. Nobody dares to utter another word, leaving only Song Cheng standing there in shock.
The crowd is totally stunned as Liu Ruyan calmly explains that Fu Shen wanted to marry her.
Floating above, Fu Shen is literally losing his mind. He is dead. Why drag him into this?
He just wants to rest in peace. Honestly, the poor guy is speechless and everyone else is dead silent.
Nobody dares to speak, so the most cursed wedding in history begins. One living girl, one cold corpse.
The priest asks if she takes him as her husband until death parts them. She instantly says she does.
Not even death will separate us, she adds. Floating nearby, Fu Shen can only laugh. Is she serious? The priest actually asks the dead groom the same question. Naturally, she speaks up and says he agrees.
Our ghost boy is screaming that he absolutely rejects this, but she ignores him, sliding on the ring.
Finally, the ceremony ends. Fu Shen hopes this fever dream is over, but suddenly, the police burst in. The guests panic. Liu Ruyan stays completely unfazed, coolly asking who called them. And then, boom, she calmly announces that she is a murderer, pointing right at his frozen corpse. They arrest her right at the altar. At the station, she confesses, but says she immediately regretted it.
But here is the catch. The autopsy reveals absolutely zero signs of foul play on his body.
Since it was just a sudden heart attack, she gets hit with accidental death. Sentence? 7 years.
Which means our main character is stuck tethered to her in a prison cell for 7 years. Unbelievable. He is forced to spend 7 boring years watching her serve her time. He literally sees everything.
Honestly, she should have just buried him and moved on. Why suffer all this? She dragged him down, too. The moment she finally gets released, she heads straight to his grave and kneels before his tombstone.
She tearfully apologizes, saying she thought she would get the death penalty. Then she stops, choking back tears. She whispers that she is coming to join him now, pulls out a knife and slashes her wrist.
Blood splashes everywhere, but she just smiles. Floating above, Fu Shen watches this unfold with zero sympathy. Watching her end her life just feels like watching some boring drama. He is totally emotionally detached. His only complaint is that she is making a mess of his grave. But hey, at least the system promised him freedom. Finally, with her dead, his soul can leave this nightmare. He has been waiting so long for this. He watches her collapse and take her very last breath. Right then, a strange vortex begins pulling his soul. His soul gets sucked into a massive black hole. Suddenly, the system's familiar voice echoes, congratulating him. He can finally reincarnate. But then the system says, "See you next time." Wait, what? And here is the plot twist. The story shifts to Liu Ruyan's perspective as she slashes her wrists. She actually smiles, believing she can finally join him. Honestly, she only realized she loved him after he died. Reading his diary, she discovered he viewed her as his ultimate savior. Yet, she drove him to death. She wanted to pay with her life, but the court only gave her 7 years. Prison never cured her. Instead, she spent every day wishing she had ended it immediately. She counted down the days until her release, living only for this final moment at his grave. Looking at his photo, she suddenly wonders what he looked like before undergoing massive plastic surgery for her. She realizes she would have loved his original self even more. As her vision blurs, death sets in. Suddenly, everything goes dark and her soul drifts right out of her body. The afterlife is very real. She frantically searches the graveyard for Fu Shen, but finds nothing. Out of nowhere, a system appears. It offers her a chance to reincarnate as a mission host. Instantly, she asks if she can find him. She tries to reject it because she only wants him, but the system warns her that Fu Shen is gone.
But she can travel to his new world if she agrees to become a host. She eagerly accepts.
Instantly, she is thrown into a brand new body. The system explains she has entered a male lead redemption story. And her target is the male lead of this world. It turns out Fu Shen is that male lead. Wishing her luck, the system sends her off. She rushes to find him and sees his real, unaltered face. Seeing how incredibly handsome he actually is, she approaches him with a trembling heart, calling out his name. But he just looks at her with pure disgust. "You have the wrong person," he says. Ouch. Before she can even explain, he brushes right past her, heading straight for another girl with a fake sweet smile. He pulls her into a warm hug, looking totally head over heels. The new girl glares, demanding to know who she is, and he quickly claims he has no idea. Claiming a mistaken identity, he shrugs it off, while the girl sneers at the cheap trick. And he actually agrees, gently promising he would never be attracted to someone so incredibly annoying. The new girl is toxic as hell, demanding he never talk to another woman. And him? He just smiles, wraps his arm around her, and walks away. She just watches them leave, his brutal words looping in her head. He called her annoying and disgusting. But then her system drops a savage reality check. It reminds her that she treated him the exact same way when he was trying to win her heart. Talk about a brutal twist. She literally brought this on herself. He is gone forever. But with her limited lifespan, she decides to silently protect him from the shadows until her very last breath. They traveled the world, but no shot they stay.